Hey guys, Bo here, Circle One Promotions, here with Noah, aka the Duke. Gonna do a video with a little bit of putting tips. We also got some new microphones, and we're testing our new mics to see if they're any good, or if they make the sound better or worse, or if you don't even notice the difference. So I'm hoping these new mics will make a difference. And when we go out there, out here in West Texas, it's very windy. So hopefully when we come out here and play in the wind, we'll be mic'd up, and hopefully the sound will be a little bit better. But back to the video. First thing that I like to do when putting is just to find a comfortable putter. I happen to putt with the Nomad, since MVP is my sponsor. Noah here, the Duke, he putts with Luna. The reason I putt with the Nomad, I used to putt with the Envy. The Envy is very overstable for a putter, but I like the shallower putters. And I tried to putt with a P2, but I just couldn't get my hands on one. And so I changed to the Envy because I like the shallower putters and I can get a good clean release. The most important thing in putting is having a consistent release, and if you're comfortable with the disc, you're going to have a comfortable release. I happen to like the Nomads because these Electron soft ones are they're easy to grip, but they're stiff around the edges, so you get a nice clean release. You get a good grip and a clean release when you're throwing these here. Noah, what do you like about the Luna?
What I like is that they're shallow too. I'm a big fan of shallow putters, and I'm like a good spin putter, and these will kind of just fade out for me, and yeah, they're pretty overstable for me.
But they feel good, and that's the most important thing, that I can release consistently release the disc. And that's one thing I'm going to show you, that when you're putting, especially when you first start, one thing that I did was just work on a release point. I didn't work on practicing making putts. I just worked on releasing the disc at the correct angle. And I'm going to show you some video. Hopefully we can lay this on top of other video of us just putting close up, so you can kind of see what we mean. It doesn't matter if you make the putts at all. Get consistent with your release, because once your release is consistent, the disc is going to be flying out of your hand consistently, the same trajectory, and you'll be able to adjust your aim instead of having to adjust your release. If you can hear that dog in the background, that's the dog that barked at Paul Macbeth while he was lining up his throw. So if y'all want autographs from that dog, you can hit me up and I'll get him to autograph a disc for you. Just kidding. Then after you've got your putter that you're really comfortable with throwing, my nephew, he putts with a pig. My dad has putted with a pig before. I think he putts with a PA2 now, right?
I believe so. You're
gonna change putters. Just once you get to throwing the disc, and your natural grip of the disc is gonna be like when you were a kid just throwing a frisbee, and that might change when you get comfortable gripping the disc. And so if you happen to change your grip, or another grip feels more comfortable putting, then you're probably going to change your putter. That's fine. People change putters all the time. The next thing you're going to want to do is find a good putting stroke. Mine's a little bit different than Duke's here. What I like to do is I like to come here, and I start with my wrist already cocked like this, so whenever I release, I'm releasing the disc, and this is the spin that I put on the disc. This is the spin that I put on the disc here. That's the spin that's coming off the disc. I start here. I make sure to line up. I start here with my feet spread, and I'll show you another video, hopefully laid over this, where you can see how I spread my feet out, and I come down here just below the waist, and I just spinning it here, just spinning it here. Hopefully we'll show you some more video of how I do it, and this is how I do it. This is what's comfortable for me. This is what gives me consistency right here. Noah, how do you do it?
So how I do it, like I like to put my feet right to the pole, straight line with my legs. Okay, and then what I like to do is put my chest right at the basket, just so I know where to release it. And then once I do it, I put my knee, I bend it right here. This one I like to keep straight right here, and I like to put it around here, you know what, and then release right on my chest. That's where the pole is. I line it up, put my disc, line it up right at the basket.
Okay, so one tip that I found that worked really good for me and that I liked was shaking hands with the pole of the basket. So because I start my wrist cocked, when I shake hands with the pole, I put spin right towards the pole of the basket. And so when I'm putting, I'm putting directly towards the pole. It's like I'm shaking hands with the pole, right? And of course, we've all heard the same 1,000-year-old advice: aim small, miss small. Don't aim for the basket. Don't aim for the chains, aim for a single chain link. You know, some people say aim for the weld on the chain, but I don't have eagle vision. I don't know anybody. If you got that kind of vision, you're doing something else besides disc golfing, working for NASA or something. But anyway, so yeah, just aim for a single chain link and try to hit that chain link. If you miss by a chain link, you miss by a chain, you miss by a small amount. So that's some of the advice I have there for as far as style of putting, stroke. You're gonna develop your own stroke. You know, Paul Ulibarri, his circle 2 putting stroke is different from a circle 1 putting stroke. He likes to spread out, straddle when he goes circle 2 and jump. I jump up from about 60 feet and beyond, but up until that point, I usually like to just stand still whenever I putt. What about you?
Well, I kind of like to jump putt, like just whatever conditions. I mean, if I'm outside circle and there's no wind, that's when I'll jump putt. But if it's like windy around 15 or 20 miles per hour, I'll start doing it like at 50 to 60 feet. But
and it's more like a step putt, right?
Like a step putt.
Another thing that I like to recommend is to limit the movement. The more, I don't know how Nathan Queen with all this stuff he does ends up making putts. The more you move, I mean, that's his stroke, and so that's fine. And if that's your stroke, that's great. But I'll just tell you that for me, the less I do, the less I can mess up. And you know, that's just in anything, you know. So I like to limit my movement. I'm here, I'm down, shake hands with the pole. That way there's less for me to mess up, because if there's something for me to mess up, I'm definitely going to do it. This last tip that both Duke and I learned, we went and played a practice round with Clint Calvin over at in Waco. We were preparing to play the tournament. I was on the wait list, didn't make it, but we were watching him putt. We're watching a lot of the pros putt, and one thing I noticed about all of them is they're really consistent with their breathing. So when they breathe, it's audible there. And here's why: because when you hold your breath, you have a tendency to shake. You have a tendency to be inconsistent. When you're breathing consistently, your movement is consistent. So when you breathe, when you practice putting, you don't have to do it in a tournament, you know. But when you're practicing, over exaggerate or exaggerate your breathing. And sometimes I even exaggerate my motion whenever I'm doing my pre putt routine. I exaggerate my motion so my body is comfortable with doing, and I'm telling myself this is what you need to do. And when I'm putting, and what I tell Duke here, when you putt, you'll hear me sometimes. If you ever see any of the videos of him in the tournaments, I'm telling him don't forget to breathe, and it's just a consistent. When you're lifting weights, you're breathing out whenever you're exhaling when you're lifting. And even whenever you martial arts, whether you're just when you're punching, when you're exercising, you're breathing out, and that's no different with putting. Even when you throw, you really shouldn't. You know, when you grunt, when you yell, you get more on it because you're exhaling. It's not because you're grunting, it's because of the exhale. And that's why when I practice putting, it's and kind of put together, it all looks like this. And so when you're practicing and when you're learning to putt, you're not going to make putts, but you just have to learn do everything consistently. Your release needs to be consistent, your movement needs to be consistent, and your breathing needs to be consistent. Show us how it's done, Duke. All right, guys, thanks for joining us. That's our video on not necessarily putting tips, but how to learn to putt, training to putt for beginners, finding your stroke, finding the disc you want to putt with, and just some tips on what works for us, and hopefully they work for you. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to the Duke. We'll see you in the next video.